applause, but I won't do that. Welcome, Mike. And this is beginning a series that Mike Imany, the AHZ Mike, has set up, which is going to lead us right up to Field Day, which happens to be only 6 weeks away, right? Did I get that right? So the push has started, and here we go. You already heard a little bit about last year's Field Day, and now Mike is going to bring us up to date on this year's. Would you mind using the microphone?
No. Yes, I mind. Okay, not so much of a presentation, but just leading in a discussion about where we're at in our current planning. Just in case anybody is totally unaware, we have a reflector set up, being a Google group, specifically for discussion of Field Day type activities. So if you're interested in Field Day and you're not yet subscribed to that, you definitely need to sign up on that reflector to see the various discussions. Going forward, we'll probably have like a weekly updates on the general reflector, so there'll be links in there to the specific reflector for Field Day, but definitely suggest you start there for keeping up to date. There's also a master planning spreadsheet for those who don't know. It's a Google document, and it lists all the volunteer opportunities, the stations. It's kind of the central planning point for seeing where we're at, what can be done, what you can do to sign up to help. So that's definitely the place you want to start at. I was hoping we'd have the projector so I could show some of that planning sheet, but we'll start out with the various stations we've got. Currently, we're 3A. What does that mean? 3A means we have 3 main operating stations on the air, not including the GOTA tent. Last year we were 4A, as Mark was talking. We're hoping to go at least 4A, maybe 5A this year. So currently we have Doug is doing the 80-20-10 digital and CW. And hopefully we can get a slight update, not that there's been much yet, from each one of our station captains. We have Leon's doing our 80-20 sideband again this year. Could do 10 as well. And we got Jacek doing the 40-15 sideband again. And GOTA's doing Pete's doing our GOTA tent. Now our big money winner last year for points was our 40-15 CW. Currently we have Ian, N0IMB, has offered to lead that station. He has a complete portable station that he could set up. The thing is, he's not a CW operator. So this is kind of key, right? So if you're going to lead one of these, if you want to be a captain running one of these stations, you don't necessarily have to be operating full-time or even any of the time, right? Your responsibility would be just kind of organizing the tent, getting the antennas set up, getting volunteers in there, and then lighting up operators. I think the 40-meter sideband tent last year was a great example of that, right? You didn't operate 100% of the time. You did a little bit.
I mostly wanted others to operate.
And it was great. We had a lot of newcomers come in there, operate that tent. It stayed active, pretty much 100% duty cycle. It was up the whole time.
For a few people, it was the first time they got on air on the conference.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's a wonderful example where, you know, don't feel intimidated if you don't, you know, if you're not up for operating in some sort of contest environment. That's not what it's all about. So, well, anyway, so Ian has volunteered to lead this 40-15. I need to talk to him a little bit about what his rig is. I think Liam was saying he has a 7300, which would be a great CW rig. That's what we used last year, Mark's rig, and it did a wonderful job there. So that's great. So that gets up to 4A. So I think we're rock solid there. And then there's always been this discussion about going 5A. I didn't realize what that meant until we just had this discussion about CW. Ron was bringing up how sending 5A, when people were talking about 5A so much better than 4A and CW, da-da-da-da-da, versus da-da-da-da-da, what's the difference? It's not that much difference in speed, but he brings up the point is the receivers, when they hear the da-da-da-da-da-da, it's like, what was that? Send it again. So it's that iteration of coming back and doing a second cycle, whereas da-da-da-da-da-da, they know right away. You don't have to come back and ask, what was that? So the throughput goes up quite a bit. So being 5A would really help in that regard. So that was really interesting. I didn't understand that. What's that?
What station will you need for 5A?
Well, so John, K4 or K3 US, right, has offered to, he's got some great ideas for running a 40, 80 CW station, like way down the hill possibly. And some wire beams, we've got some discussions to do, but it sounds like that would actually be a really good idea. That would get us to 5A. It'd be a great station to run throughout the night. The thing is, we're going to need like lots of assistance down there, because trying to get some nice wire beam antennas up or something, it's going to take some good volunteers. So we need to do a little organizing, and we need to make sure that we have enough tents, the generators, and all that kind of stuff. So there's definitely going to be some planning involved with it, but I think it's doable. How many tents do we have in the club right now? Is it?
7.
We have 7.
By the way,
So,
say what A means, 5A, 4A, some people may not know.
oh, okay. The A is alternate power, right? A, I guess, stands for alternate. So it means we're off of the main. So at our station, we're running off a generator. So it's all gas generators. And we have some solar, so we pick up some solar points. And I guess that's it. So alternate power and solar.
No consideration of 160?
Well, we talked to Lee, and I were just talking about that. We have the Wyndham, so and that's up already. So we could definitely use that as well. But that's usually what Doug's been using. Correct? You used the Wyndham last year.
Yeah, I used the slot last year. I put the 80 meter up because of feedback that 160 was not productive for folks previously.
Yeah.
But there's no reason we couldn't put the 160 in that slot if we wanted to give it another shot.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. You were talking about running it without the vertical, right? So it was.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking of, because, you know, otherwise without the vertical we have more isolation.
Yeah.
Is John running the VHF, UHF radio?
Yeah. Okay. So thank you.
Ray.
Right. No, I'm thinking of John's call sign. KMU is going to bring his Mad Max Jeep, and if you haven't seen that, it's something to behold for sure. And I think he's talking about, he's got some he's going to bring his own generator. He's got some things he's going to experiment with as well. Last year he was operating all within his Jeep, which made it kind of hard for having people participate on the station. So this year he's looking at moving his rig outside the Jeep so he can have visitors and let some other people get on the air as well. So that'll be good. So he's got some good plans. So, I mean, he's totally self-contained, Leon's contained, Doug's self-contained, so those are all great. The 4015, we've got all the club equipment. I guess you're looking at using more or less the same that we used last year. We've got lots of volunteers or folks volunteering their equipment. It's been amazing. So we have a 7300 you said we could borrow. We've got a K3. Doug's offered his 6600 Flex. So we have lots of rigs. We have lots of wire. So the only thing we're missing for the 5A, I think we need to be concerned about another generator and maybe a tent. But we've got, you know, our old tents, and I'm sure people who picked up, I know I have one, we can bring those in and donate those back to you. So I think we have plenty of shelters.
Those generators will feed two leads.
Well, if he's going to be the way down, if we're going to have one like way down the hill, that'll definitely be its own generator.
Yeah.
So, which leads to the next thing, I guess. We need to have a site visit relatively soon. If the station, you know, the leads currently could email me on what days might work within the next couple of weeks, just kind of get a consensus, and then we can put together I can put together like a doodle, was it a doodle? Doodle poll. I think you turned me on to that last year, and then, you know, we can narrow it down from there and pick a date. With primary, you know, the leads need to be there. Our antenna lead, Lee, has volunteered to be our antenna lead, and get those folks out there to, you know, to make sure all the trees are still there. I think, John, you said you actually went out and looked around a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's why
put forth a few of those ideas. I don't know.
Uh-huh.
But it
Did you notice anything radically different from last year on your?
looked like one of the trees on my satellite photo was not there, and I go, oh, this must be an old satellite photo.
Down the hill, like looking down the hill to the left?
With another one. But it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Oh, man. Maybe we should chip in and buy some trees for the park. We're going to be in trouble soon. Yeah.
I guess the issue would be, would the park have any problem with us going across the road over there?
We've done
I
that
think
before.
we have, okay.
You talking about the road coming into the park?
No.
The one.
123?
No. Down the hill, across the road at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, we've done that.
Yeah.
We've done that.
We done it with our guidelines, not with you.
We have put the 160 on your supposed to road.
Yeah, we've had the antenna within the last couple of years across the road.
Have a quiet generator is all I'm thinking, because it's near the ice cream parlor too, or, 200 feet away. Yeah. But that'll bring people over.
Yeah.
Have big banners, big, pennants.
Well, Pete, didn't several years ago you had your station down that hill, right?
No.
Somebody had a CW. Oh, Jack had a CW station? Yeah. Which is kind of a nice spot. I mean, it was in the shade and everything else.
Well, Kevin,
Bottom of the drainage, the natural drainage there, there's a lot of water will puddle up if we've got a good storm.
Makes a good ground.
I think Kevin was down there also, WB0POH, because he was
Okay. Somebody had a nice, like a, it was a nice wooden station, I remember. Anyway, okay.
We do something, Mike, with regards to the poison ivy, get a team and put some, tape, yellow tape around where the bad stuff is. I can tell you where it is.
It's not yellow tape everywhere. I think that'd be an eyesore. I mean, maybe post some signs. This is poison ivy, what it looks like. I mean, people should know, right, what poison ivy looks like.
At least those who are sensitive to it, you get busy chasing a weight and a wire and a line, and you don't know what you're walking on.
It's pretty much, I mean, you'd be better off marking what isn't poison ivy. I mean, it's just so much of it in the woods. Once you go into the woods, it's everywhere.
Well, Mark will do it. He's immune now.
Yeah.
Kind of related to that, last year, I think we didn't have a wash station, like we did in previous years, like a place to wash your hands off, or say wash poison ivy off. Well,
Yeah.
poison ivy, you need to wipe with alcohol.
No.
It's like axle grease, it'll stay out. Point still stands, we have a wash station, which we had done previously.
Okay.
So to address, I guess, you raised the poison ivy, I bought paint to put on, keep that stuff off, and then have gloves go back there, fairly well protected. Mine was paper. If it's not too hot, it's 90 cents.
Mhm. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so I mentioned about the extra equipment that folks have offered to lend in regard to transceivers. Doug has brought up a really great idea, I thought, as far as using his 6600 as a manned, if we're not going to use it as another operating station to make us 5A, to use it as a manual sideband spotting station. So have like another antenna, have his 6500 set up, and somebody sitting there looking for spots, identifying, if I understand correctly, on N1MM, so that the other sideband stations can see people to go chase after if you're doing search and pounce. I think this would be really nice for operators who aren't doing the, what do you call it, running, right? If they're doing search and pounce, and that's typically where new operators will start out. Right, you're just kind of scanning around, making contacts. So it's a little slower, it's a little more comfortable. You can kind of listen to the call, get in the rhythm, and then do the hit. GOTA as well. I think that's a great idea. So So how do we go about doing that? I guess that would be like in the central tent, or maybe even in the mess tent or something, a separate antenna.
We could put up a beverage antenna if it's receive only, which we've done before down the fence along the golf course.
Mm-hmm.
The beverage worked very well. It's
Okay.
receive only.
Yeah. So something like that, and then somebody knowledgeable in how to do the N1MM to set that up. You mentioned something about different colors. There's something to set it up to make it do that automatically as the manual guy is keying them in.
Well, yeah, all the spotter would have to do is key in the call sign. What happens then is it lands on the band map, the N1MM. And N1MM will make it gray if it's already been worked, and will make it blue otherwise. So what the operating stations would do is have the band map up there if they were doing certain counts, and they'd be able to see which ones are still available at point.
Okay. That sounds, I think that's wonderful. That would be a great thing to set up. So I guess that would require somebody to call that another station captain almost. I mean, it doesn't count as a 5A or bringing us a 6A because it's receive only, but still somebody, I guess we'd like to have somebody volunteer to kind of set that up and organize that. You don't have to, again, you don't have to man it all the time, but at least if it's sitting there ready to go, then anybody can sit down, scan around, and start spotting these things. I think that would be a great idea. Corey, you can add something? Okay. Yeah.
Is there any interest in setting up wideband receiving stations for monitoring? So each station could have like a waterfall on the computer to see what is going on, where stations are opening. I have a receiver, FDR receiver, which we can set up. It covers entire HS band. It connects to the network. You can connect, open a page on a browser and view it. But if we want to have it, I can bring it, no problem. I will need help with setting up antenna for this.
Okay.
What kind of antenna do you use? Long wires, maybe even?
Could be anything.
Isn't that sort of what we're talking about with the flex? I mean, you've got it's like a waterfall and a band scope is what you're talking about.
Flex you have locally. Here you set it up. It's available for up to 4 users.
Mm-hmm.
So each station could have own view anywhere in the band.
Okay.
So it could be shared.
Of the stations we've got 2 flexes. They've got their own band scopes, right? The 7300 has got a waterfall. I mean, it might be a good idea. We'll definitely keep it in mind. Is it difficult to set up?
Well, he needs help.
Well,
Yeah.
I need help with antenna.
Yeah.
The biggest concern is that it will be overloaded. So this we have to test.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm talking about is populating N1MM band now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can do things like arrow up and arrow down to zoom to the next station and so on, as well as N1MM integration. And by the way, another variant of that, on CW that can be automated with robots that are listening, and you can do the same thing.
At the same time?
Probably not at the same time.
Okay.
Probably one of the other.
He brought up about overloading the receiver. Would it be an issue using your 6600 and doing this spotting if we got people transmitting on the site?
You just have to get the antenna far enough away that you're not
attenuated a little bit.
We'll be in PG County with him.
Okay.
Hey, Mike, let's back up here, though. Is not the purpose of this to have somebody scanning, say, 10 meters, and all of a sudden 10 meters opens up?
Well, that's in the gross for sure. Yeah.
I mean, isn't that really what we're talking about? Is not so much the individual stations, but an opening that is on 10 meters or 12, I guess not 12, but 15
Well, that's a different
that we
strategy.
take
Yeah.
advantage of for 45 minutes because, oh, by the way, it's over.
Well, definitely we missed a couple windows last year in the morning when 15 meters was open and we didn't realize it, and we could have had a good run going. So, I mean, that's definitely a big plus. But also doing the search and pounce. I mean, identifying individual stations rather than tuning around, listening, oh, I've got that one, I've got that one. I mean, that kills a lot of time versus if you got somebody there, you know, doing that on the side for you and just like indicating where to hit. I mean, you, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, my rig will put a 4-pin adapter to one. Last year, I left one open on 6 meters, and every now and then somebody ran over to the VHF guy and said, "Hey, now's the time."
Okay, so why don't we use a simplex frequency on 2 meters and have an internet, have a connectivity between all the stations, so that if there's an opening on 6 meters, you can make that call over to John Young, who's monitoring the simplex frequency, whatever.
I definitely want to make more use of the 2-meter on-site communications. Last year it was almost kind of embarrassing. It was like, you know, the mess was ready and calling on 2 meters, you know, it's almost like we need a bell. We need to go that primitive because.
Well, to that point, do you have any data of how many minutes or how much time in total the stations were empty? What I'm concerned about is we're talking about a saturated operator time here, and I seem to remember going by some tents where either the same people were there or there was nobody there, and if we're looking at saturating the time of those different tents, we might need to look at getting people to pre-qualify, or not pre-qualify, but announce themselves that they're going to be there. Otherwise, you know, you'll have this nice chart and you'll have an empty seat. Because I'm not sure that there's that much of a butt in the seat type of club when it comes to operating. That's my only concern.
As far as going 5A versus 4A?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even when we talked a little bit via email, John and I, that, I mean, he doesn't even foresee, I think, having this 5th station operating 100% of the time. I mean, even if it doesn't, it would be great if it was, but even if it isn't, for that time when those bands are alive, and we've got CW hot guns that are wanting to hammer out, you know, make contacts, to have that extra station there and have to be able to satisfy that urge, I think it'd be worth it. I mean, the fun factor. So, I mean, even if they're not full all the time, and I've got some ideas. Like last year, we had Howard's 2-meter set up in the headquarter tent, if you will. And I'm thinking we probably should have hourly or every couple hour updates, you know, over the 2-meter, just to say, you know, how things are going. We've got this much scored up, just to build a little enthusiasm to people. And we got empty tents. You know, if you want to operate, come on down.
Do you know how many people actually logged in last field day? How many members?
As far as operating wise?
Yeah. N1MM should tell us.
We have
Yeah, I don't have the number.
It's in the briefing that if Mark had the URAP meeting up, it would have showed you exactly all the operators,
Mm-hmm.
how many contacts each operator had.
You know, Mike, do you know the percentage of operators versus attendees or the VWS attendees? Is it 40%?
No, it's way less than that.
It's less than that. We
Like
said, when we sent the
10 or
log in,
15%.
we said that we had 66 people that participated in field day. It was probably a little higher than that, but we had less than half of that, or even maybe a third.
Yeah, I was going to say a couple dozen maybe of people who are seriously operating.
And that tracks because of the dinner meal on Saturday, we had 70-ish people, maybe 76 people for dinner.
Yeah,
So there were some families that were there.
So really trying to encourage people up to the radio, up to the mic, or up to the key, and just, I mean, you don't have to sit there and do 90 or 100 an hour. You can do 20, you can do 10 or 5. Just generating interest.
Mm-hmm. And we've tried, you know,
Well,
like
the reason why I asked this, it goes to what you said about the incentives. Maybe we need to have some kind of an incentive, maybe a post-field day recognition of those people
Field day, yeah.
Well, I made the comment about, I didn't get any response, but we had the, who introduced the, what was it, calories per QSO?
Mike
Right.
Boyer claims something
Yeah,
for that.
and so maybe we just have to say there's no calories unless you make at least 1 QSO?
We can't do that.
What's wrong, Ray? How many contests did you make last year?
Yesterday, I really do need to have any inputs on dietary restrictions. I got one response on that email, and so there's only going to be one dietary meal prepared unless other people respond.
Okay, the next thing I had here on my list was as far as promoting field day. Bill mentioned meeting with the Vienna mayor, and there's some good photos. I think that Harry must have taken them, or he was in the picture. I don't know how he did that. But it got posted down at the ARRL Roanoke Division Facebook page. There's a real nice photo in there if you haven't seen it. I've added a link on the planning sheet that you can get to it. If you missed that, it's worth looking at. We have a printable field day flyer. John just pointed out that it's kind of hard to find on the planning spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet, at least on my computer, it has tabs along the bottom, like sheets. And there's one of them is a media tab, and there's a link there to this printable. It's a PDF. You can print it out. I've got one printed out, and I got it stuck in my window of my automobile. So I would suggest, if you don't mind, printing out a couple of those, stick them in some public places in your workplace or whatever, and just generate a little publicity there. It's a pretty easy thing to do, and would get us hopefully some more people on site. Let's see. John had mentioned another good idea. I've noticed in the past couple of years, we have lots of older hams, senior hams come that are maybe a little mobile, disadvantaged. And Pete, one year we talked about trying to get a cart or something. That really didn't work out. But one of the things is, these field days can get stinking hot. And he mentioned having some sort of like an air-conditioned type tent or a trailer or something to provide some relief to some folks who might want to come and do that. Brendan?
I asked the certain people that are coming if we could utilize, they've got 5 misting stations.
Okay. Oh.
A drum like this, they can fill up with water, put a big fan on it, and it's there. I think we're going to get one of those.
Okay. Does that work in a high humidity?
It cools you down.
Definitely beats an air-conditioned RV.
Uh-huh.
I like the air conditioning.
Well, so to that, Ross had volunteered bringing, he's got a trailer. He's going to be doing our site security and some of our first aid type stuff. So he's got a trailer that has air conditioning in it that he's offered to park on site. And I guess it's got some sort of little awning or in the front or something. So, this I think would be very worthwhile to offer relief if somebody needs it, and get, we don't want anybody having a heat stroke or anything. So, so that would work out really well. I don't think there's any restriction to having a little trailer like that parked, right? He showed me a picture of it. It's nothing huge or anything. It's,
We've had that before. We never had a problem before.
Okay.
We had an RV there before.
Okay. So I think that's wonderful. So I think that'll work out quite well.
Do you have your own equipment generator?
That's yet to be determined. I'm working on that.
Because that will drag down the voltage fairly significantly on those 1,500 kW generators. They're either 15 or 3,000 watt generators.
I'm working on getting it. I don't think I'll need it.
Okay, that's great.
He's still looking for a truck that he can.
I went through, took some pictures last year. The nice panoramic view of the field day site was nice. Whoever did the pictures last year, I hope they show up again.
I already talked to them.
Does anybody have a drone? It'd be nice to get some drone footage.
Some what?
A drone.
I have to check with the park and see whether or not they'll allow drone activity. So.
And you need someone with commercial.
Really?
No, it's not.
If you're like flying one content, you don't need the license.
Well, this will be fun.
Yeah, but this can be interpreted as like doing for business, even just promoting, and you need a license for
He's right. It's promoting anything commercial.
What if you throw a camera up in the
Well, do we still have those balloons? To get a good photo from like 60,000 feet?
Yeah.
If drones do become a possibility, they're also an alternate way to get initial lines up instead of using spud guns.
Okay.
High end time.
there's drone club in Fairfax, they use fire station license.
Let's contact them.
Well, I think we've got another. He calls it a cannon. When the club's got a spud gun, I've got a spud. We've got lots of spud guns.
Shot the lines last year, did a great job. I mean, that's
Yeah, so I think we've probably got that. We've got that down to an art, I think.
I guarantee any tree in the park. Any tree in the park. It will get.
It's not about going only up. It's also going.
And I'm not to any tree in the park. You can wait and see it. It's a 15-gallon LP tank.
I kept to shoot 15 times.
We used to call those bazookas.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. An on-site what? EMT. We have.
Oh, John.
No, we're going to have a first aid.
John can do field operations
with the spreadsheet, and you guys should look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's not good.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a press release. I think it's formalized, right? Could you, Bill, didn't you send it out?
Harry, I think, did that.
Harry did it, and I know there was some reviewed.
Harry's not here.
No, he's not here.
I'm not sure.
There's definitely a rough draft. I'll make a note to check on it and see where it stands, but it should be ready to go. Okay. I'm pretty sure it's done because I think it's been, submitted in several places already. So, but I'll make a note to check.
Available for last year. So that's the site visits, emergency power, solar.
Well, okay, so that brings up a couple though. So where we were a little short and we could have done better last year was youth involvement. I think we only had one youth show up, and that's quite frankly a shame. I mean, we should be doing a better job of getting out. And unfortunately, I don't have any contacts, leading, like in the past we've had Boy Scout leaders, but they're not doing that any longer. So it would really be great if anybody knows of any technical clubs or, didn't I just read something about somebody was looking for VEs for TJ or something? TJ, somebody was just looking. So do they know about our field day? I mean, that might be a good place to start.
We sponsored their student club, so they should know.
So where are they? Okay.
Check with John Transu. He's our official liaison.
Yeah, he was the one who had the note. Yeah. Okay.
But Noble Labs has an amateur radio.
But they're not youth, are they?
No.
That's a mix.
Well, they're a mix.
Yeah.
Most of their members have youth.
Mm-hmm.
Another area, high school, just be interested.
I try, I have a teenage daughter, and forget it. Okay. Dad, they're not interested in that.
That's the only way you're going to get them.
What's that?
Get somebody else to ask you about it.
Yeah.
A boy.
Watch it, Ray. Yeah, John?
Just
camp. You know, I don't know what that is. But doesn't it sound great?
Free.
Community clubs, community centers often have technology clubs.
You know, there in engineering, there's a common concept. It's called KISS. Keep it simple, sir.
Yeah, that's the right.
And I'm starting to see a level of complexity in here that may cripple us a little bit if we're trying to do too many things. Is that a fair assessment, or?
In what specifically are you talking about?
Well, we have energy going towards getting kids. We have energy towards all these things. Those things are never going to work unless you have somebody stand up and say, I will run with this, because otherwise they'll just be in this nebulous cloud.
Well, that's why it's a on the spreadsheet, a lead.
Right.
Right, so we have captains, we have leads, so somebody.
Unless somebody signs up for it, it doesn't get done.
Exactly. So as many helpers, but if some, yeah, I agree. If we just sit here and talk about it, it's not going to, and I've made a note here to contact John. Maybe I'll put his name on here. He's not here tonight. You know, so maybe he'll be the lead. I mean, it doesn't take a lot, right? If he has some contacts, and you know, maybe that's good enough. Let's see, but otherwise, everything is pretty much filled in. We do have this message origination, sending a message to the AWR section leader and account of the ARES operators. I think Brendan did that last year. Is that something you can?
The last couple of years, I'd be happy to do it again.
Yay.
I thought I signed up for that.
Maybe you did, and it just didn't get done. Sorry. So other than that, everything on our bonus rule list is checked. That doesn't mean if you want to do some of this, you know, just go on the site, see who's leading it, and then hop on and help with it. Like for instance, Doug's he's signed up to do our W1AW copy the bulletin on digital, which is a great way to do it because it's copied, it's 100%, you just hit the print button and you're done. But I mean, it's still nice if we can get some, you know, somebody copy it on sideband, on CW, and have multiple coverage on that point.
I have a question. When I was in your shoes and did field day one day, and I think every other field day after that, the one weak spot that we had was something that Pete had to deal with, and that was getting people to go and pack everything up and take it back to the lockup.
Well, that's on the, yeah, it's coming up.
We had people sign up, and then they turn out to be hired, and it was left to 3 or 4 people to do that. Do we have enough people that have signed up for that?
Pete's got a sheet he's been putting out for looking for Sherpers, and I think we're still 4 or 5 shy on that. There is a sign-up page on the, yeah.
Very important.
So I've had several people like approach me or send emails and say, you know, hi, I'm, you know, Joe, and here's my call sign, and, you know, can you hook me up with somebody? I want to help do this or that. In regard to like setting up and such, and we really don't have a sign-up sheet at that level of detail. The thing is, like, if you want to help, just come on out Friday. Everybody's running around doing a million different things. There's 100 different tasks you can help with: hanging antennas, setting up tents. I mean, there's just not enough hands. But as Ray was just saying, where it starts to fall short is on takedown Sunday at 2 o'clock, when the station operators, the station captains, everybody's just dog tired and wore out. That's when we really need some help. So I definitely agree. And those last hours, you know, from 2 to 5, when the thing is getting broke down, Pete's got Sherpers signed up to help unload at the trailer, and that's gone pretty smoothly in the past.
I just added 2 more. I think we've got what we need now.
I think we need a nap tent. I said I think we need a nap tent.
Oh, air conditioning. We can do that. And we put that little picture in there. You know, one of the things last year, if the weather cooperates this year, if we could get the antennas up a little, not faster, but you know, we were really scrambling toward Saturday morning to plan afternoon, putting up nature antennas. I think the
Well, I know 2 years ago it went really well. We had all the string. We didn't pull any antennas up, or very few antennas up. We had all the strings up, all the ropes into the trees, everything labeled by chow time Friday. Yeah. And then, you know, Saturday morning it was just like start connecting the antennas. All the shooting was done. Start pulling them up. That worked out really, really well.
Yeah, it was a real scramble for Saturday afternoon.
But the earlier we can start putting them up, the cooler it is, and
on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
Right.
We could
Yeah,
set
Keith?
the transportation up an hour if we could get people in Chantilly at 2 o'clock instead of 3. But generally, people that take off for work on a Friday, 2 o'clock is, you know, you're ducking out of work. 3 o'clock, you're kind of getting out a little bit early.
Yeah.
So but there's nothing sacred about 3 o'clock in Chantilly, other than it just seems like a better time for people that are, you know, working about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you get out of the lockup earlier than 5 o'clock, we'll miss a lot of the traffic.
We're out at 4. We're in the locker at 3, on the road at 4, First Lake Park at 5.
I think that works out pretty well because, I mean, you know, because you have all the other volunteers, you know, kind of starting to converge around that time.
Yeah.
I think if you move it up pretty early, you know, if you move it up earlier, you might get there, and then you got to unload the trailer, and you're not going to have people there to help unload the trailer and stuff. So, yeah, yeah.
What's the rule on Friday being able to shoot guy wires or guy lines for antennas?
24 hours.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
There's a new rule now that you're within 24 hours.
So we could do it
We
on
can
that
do as
Friday
early as
night.
2 o'clock Friday without even looking at the regular.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Keith.
Yeah, I'm already signed up for setup and tear down on Friday and Sunday. It sounds like you might need somebody Saturday as well. And I will be available Saturday if I can get a ride there, and this is the important part, and back by 6:30 p.m.
That's on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if anybody's heading to Vienna, arrive around 6:30 p.m., then I could be there the rest of Saturday. Otherwise, no Saturday for me.
What time does setup start on Friday?
Well, yeah, 5 o'clock's when the trailer will get there. So, you know, you can start as early as 2 doing site stuff.
Then we'll be done by the time the trailer gets there.
Yeah.
I'm planning on taking the whole day off.
I would encourage people to try to get to the park and get there by 3 or 4, because we'll have other things coming in. We've got the tent for the necessary, and I know the grill and all supposed to arrive an hour ahead. What's the plan? Right?
You know, if since you're the antenna meister, if you could get those black guidelines earlier and 1 or 2 spud guns,
Right.
I won't be there until 3:30 latest. So there's an account that I have. But then we can shoot those up even before Pete comes
Right.
with his.
So the other question is, Leon, what time are you and your antennas? And they have some things coming in.
I'm planning on taking the day off.
Okay, so we can actually start getting up the hex beam long before the stuff arrives from the lockout.
That'd be great.
So there's a lot we can do. Everything is tied to the trailer going up.
And the reason why I bring it up is because you'd like to troubleshoot any type of interference problems earlier rather than experience them while it's going on. And there were a lot of good things that happened last year, but there was a lot of scrambling at the right before the start time to make it all happen.
Saturday morning last year too.
Are we putting up the spider beam and the hex beam again this year?
For sure. And we also have a second hex beam that we might make use of.
That's great.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah. Jack's shipping it back, so I think Leon's collecting it.
I got something planned.
Are there any special tools for setting up that would make any of your jobs easier? I'm a mechanic, so I
Mountains? You still have that?
480, 48 foot. It's supposed to go up 15 minutes, but it's a lot longer.
Well, it took us 8 hours, but,
But it's
could we use his?
oh, sure.
Could we use another tower?
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah,
May we please ask you to bring that?
you may, go ahead.
Would you please bring that?
What do you need to set that up?
Nothing. It's got a tripod.
It's a field tower for the military. I mean, you know,
Okay.
you get 6 guys with a couple of chevrons on it.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you, John.
No, I mean, I'm planning to bring it, but I forgot to mention it.
The more chevrons, the longer it takes.
So I guess that's pretty much all I've got, unless if anybody else has any comments or any of the captains want to mention anything.
Good job.
No, it's,
I would encourage the club members to take a look at the field day information on the website, presentations that have lessons learned, issues that happen, so the same things don't happen again, like we don't inadvertently shut off the engine generator by closing them.
oh, well, that's a good point. Yeah, so, yes.
With things like that, or we had to really brute force to get the individual station data into the common log for the network. So that.
Do we have a network coordinator?
Yeah, that's Corey.
Yeah.
And one of the things I definitely want to make sure is that we have a better backup plan for like doing manual backups per station. Like the station captain should, you know, have a timer or something every hour, every 2 hours, do some sort of manual grab of the data, just so we don't have a disaster where we lose.
You know, I noticed last year, did we go wireless on the networking? I think if we went back to the Cat5 cable, I think we do a lot better, because we've got so much spurious radiation going on there. One station after another started bouncing up and down. We need to hardwire, and we've got tons of Cat5 cables.
Mm-hmm.
So if Corey is not against that.
He's back.
What about the mesh?
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Thanks everybody for being here tonight, and thanks to our two presenters. Thanks to Rebecca, KM4RDS, for the food. Thanks to all of you for the fun. Thanks to Ray for videotaping. Thanks to Yasif for putting this on the air. You guys were all online tonight. Did you know that? And the next event for the club is Monday Night Net. So everybody come see us on 2 meters and 4 and 70 centimeters on Monday night. Thanks.